Ganja is a holy sacrament, make mankind wise and intelligent. Ganja, the missing link, the sixth element. Everybody should have smoke it, even policeman and the president. Imagine how this world would look like. I know this little plant could make us all unite. Leaders of the world sit down and burn the peace pipe. I know the wars would cease right. Soldiers throw them guns away, shaking hands and sharing greenery.
The issue about ganja in this little land need to be looked into very seriously. For the simple reason that after so many years and you have so many population of the poor class who using this ganja as a sacrament. And today we still got black leaders that says independent that we be electing, and they cannot see to free the ganja and stop oppressing the people that from in their own community. Politicians know man enough who smoke ganja, who use ganja.
Most people I spoke to were quite young when the emperor visited and don't remember much. But Rastafari elders still share the stories of when Barbados received a visit from the man they know to be the Messiah.
We are a blessed land. That's one of the things His Imperial Majesty said in one of his speeches while in Barbados.
King's words were that Barbados would live up to its expectations.
He made short stops in Barbados, Jamaica and Haiti after being originally invited to Trinidad and Tobago.
There was a newspaper at the time called the Daily News, and they say that when he came to Broad Street, it was a humongous crowd waiting to meet him.
Rastafarianism is still fairly young in Barbados.
Yeah, most people put it down to the visit of Ras Bonajis and the Sons of Thunder, including Ikel Tafari. It was a group that came from Jamaica to Barbados.
The movement may have encouraged Barbadians to eat healthier, to care for the environment, and embrace African heritage, but they've had their trials too. Matter of fact, their stories include job discrimination and other types of oppression.
There was rampant discrimination against Rastafari at the time, you know. And also at the time we had some very vicious episodes between the security forces and Rastafari, you know, where guys were summarily taken off the street and beaten.
It was difficult to get our children into school. It was difficult even to go and call African names at the registry. People made sport, you know, where you get that long name from, or where is it that, you know?
Rastas are an easy target because of the illegality of marijuana as well.
Marijuana's illegal status remains a major issue for the Rastafarian community.
Just the same way as the Christians pass their cup of wine at their ceremonies, Rastafari pass our cup of herbs at our ceremonies, you know. So it is a part of our religious culture.
We don't see it as a drug, we see it as a sacrament to this movement. But we obviously don't encourage people abusing the concept either.
Since last year, we have sent a letter to the Attorney General asking for a meeting with him. We don't want to force any, we just want some discussion.
They say many aspects of Rastafarianism are misunderstood.
People would thrust at you, oh, I want to think Selassie is God. How people see God or what they're trying to say is, you know, you still have to understand from that perspective. So Rasta would always say Almighty God's a living man, which if you think back then, well, Jesus Christ was a living man when people saw God in him. So it was kind of that same point of view.
The idea that Rastafari is a religion is also somewhat incorrect.
It's a faith, it's a life, a way of life, a liberty as Rastafari would say.
It's my words, how I present myself every day to my everyday folk. It's my dress, how I carry myself as an African woman. It's my food.
We would say a liberty, that is our word, a liberty, because you can't just talk about it, you have to live it.
I give Jah thanks when I rise in the
There's a tabernacle in Mount Carmel, St. John, for those of the Nyabingi order, which is just one sect of Rastafari, much like Christians have various denominations. Its design is very deliberate.
The tabernacle also represents the cosmos, which is the heavens, right? Which being the Jacob and 12 sons, you know, Israel.
It's their place of worship and celebration, meditation, for meetings and discussions, receiving foreign guests, blessing and naming ceremonies for newborns. It even serves as a summer camp.
Some of us will call it the Jerusalem schoolroom, in which there's prophecy, there's history and education about Africa.
Overall, the group is hopeful that it will see progress in this celebratory year. Besides the 50th anniversary of independence and the Emperor's visit, plus the 200th anniversary of the Bussa Revolt, the world is powering through the UN's International Decade for People of African Descent.
We should use this time also to keep that in focus, for that is one of the cornerstones that Rastafari is built on, reparations and repatriation.
Their celebrations began at the Tabernacle yesterday, and a motorcade on the 24th will follow exactly the path the Emperor took 50 years ago. Denise Blackman, CBC News.
Douglas Trotman, lecturer, UWI 1994 to 2003. Computer science, a bit of law. I'm a student now. Biology and chemistry. Marijuana in Barbados is a controlled drug. I wouldn't want people to leave here thinking that it is an illegal drug per se. A controlled drug when you combine the act and the regulations, the Minister of Health has the authority to grant a license to use the drug for medicinal purposes. This is an opportunity, and I thought that the Faculty of Law would have been making their presence here to correct any of the misconceptions. Right? So that I wanted to simply make that point, that marijuana in Barbados is not illegal per se. So the same concoction that was made with the cocaine can be done with the marijuana. That is a fact. Ministerial order. So marijuana is not illegal. It is illegal if you don't have a license to use, produce, supply, etc. And there are persons, pharmacists and doctors who are qualified, who actually can be given the license. A nurse can administer it. The research, our beloved principal said you can't do research at UWI. That is not true either. Right. You know, you're talking international law and domestic law. Our domestic laws, here, standing as a Barbadian, the only law that will trump me is technically is the Constitution. Yeah. The application, I don't want to go into that, but the minister is currently challenged to issue a license. There was a response which said they were doing a paper. Then they were written and they were given the law. There has been no response, which is typical, because now you're faced with the law. So let's leave that. Now we are headed to court. So hopefully by the next conference, we'll be able to report on.
I find that the black working class, black people do not know their opponents, and they do not understand that their opponents are always working. No matter how rich, no matter what they have, they are always working, and the working class and black opponents are basically all white. And what they do is they set up the society with stories, the latest being white slaves. There have never, ever, ever, ever been a manumission document for a white person. No white person I have ever heard of was slit down the belly and a child fall out. I have not. So the other day, a woman was speaking to me in a hairdressing shop, and she said, "Oh, Bill Malaloo said they're white slaves," and I'm trying to tell her, and she's going on because a white person told her.
The Assembly will hear a statement by Her Excellency Mir Amo Modley, Prime Minister, Minister for National Security and the Civil Service, and Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs and Investment of Barbados. May I request protocol to escort Her Excellency. I have great pleasure in welcoming the Prime Minister, Minister for National Security and Civil Service and Minister for Finance, Economic Affairs and Investment of Barbados, and I invite her to address the General Assembly.
Thank you very much. Madam President, let me begin by congratulating you on your election, and in particular for being the only the fourth woman in the 73-year history of this organization to hold the high honor of being elevated to the position of President of the United Nations General Assembly. I want, however, to pause at this stage because I came here with a speech that is impossible for me to deliver. Events have happened in the last 24 hours in the world in which we live that cannot be ignored. Whether in my own country, the passage of a tropical storm that we thought had passed us, only to have floods hit too many of our communities overnight, or for it to hit our sister country, St. Lucia, whether an earthquake off the shore of Martinique and Guadeloupe and Dominica this morning, not affecting land but destabilizing, whether an earthquake off Indonesia earlier today and a tsunami, or whether a typhoon that is about to deal with the people in Japan. These events are of concern because the world in which we live is a very different world. And I ask myself, what does it matter? Last year, the Prime Minister of Dominica stood from this podium within days of the passage of a hurricane so violent that to describe it as a Category 5 hurricane would be to do injustice to what the people of Dominica were exposed to. You heard my colleague, the Prime Minister of Antigua, speak earlier of the fact that over $140 billion in damage came to the Caribbean through these weather systems. And I ask, therefore, the interpreters today to bear with me, because it is impossible to deliver a speech that is focused on anything else other than our reality in the Caribbean, our reality in the Pacific Islands, our reality in the world in which we live. We have asked, as heads of government, for us to address these issues, whether in the Paris Agreement or whether as we come to COP24, to be seen against a background of a 2-degree change. But 2 days ago in the One Planet Summit, a graph was given that has haunted me for the last 48 hours. And that graph spoke to the fate of the world with respect to the tipping points for 3 degrees and under, for 3 to 5 degrees, for over 5 degrees. And for 3 degrees and under, which we are on course for reaching because of our inability to take decisive action, it means that the Arctic, the Antarctic, Greenland, and the Coral Islands, the people of the Coral Islands, the people of the region from which I come, are at risk. For us, it is about saving lives. For others, it is about saving profits. We have reached the stage where we ask the global community to recognize that what is at stake is simply not an academic debate, is simply not the profits of multinational corporations, but the evidence is clear and decisive that it is the lives and it is the living of our people. I ask us, how do we listen to speech after speech after speech? How many more must we listen to before we realize that the agreements that are necessary to fund climate change, the agreements that are necessary to cap us not at 2-degree change, because 2-degree change means a rise in sea level of 1.5 to 2 meters for our islands. And for those islands like ours, where much of our economy is based on our coasts, then you begin to understand what it will be like by the end of the century for us. Matters pertaining to migration and security will become ever present in this world if we do not make a stop. So I have come here today not to talk on everything. There are those who would wish that I would speak on denuclearization, and our voice will be heard and my speech will be distributed. There are those who would wish that we should also speak on a matter that is affecting our community gravely, chronic non-communicable diseases. And we shall speak on that continuously in other fora, because it is affecting 1 in every 4 of our citizens. There are those who would ask that I speak also of the graduation of middle-income countries from access to finance. And that, ironically, affects our ability to be able to adapt our environments, our economies, our societies, to confront climate change, to confront the vagaries of it. But when we make these arguments in fora after fora after fora, we are met with a stern face and a determination that our per capita income, as if that is a real factor in how people eat and how people move and how people sleep, that per capita income should now preclude us from being able to access the very funding to protect our people from the worst ravages of the storms and the earthquakes, from the fires. I ask this global community to pause, because as we learned when we went to San Francisco 2 weeks ago for the Global Climate Summit on action on climate change, that time truly is running out upon us. We will make the decisions that we have to make on a national level. We have committed to ban single-use plastics and styrofoam from April of next year. We will ensure that we can try to become a fossil fuel-free country by 2030. But what does this mean against the background of a world that is not prepared to put the funding in place to be able to stop those worst aspects of climate change? What does this mean to people who are relying on a green climate fund because their per capita income or their capacity to be able to provide for their people is simply not there? Is this a sterile environment? Or is this an environment that recognizes that mighty or small, that we must protect each other in this world? We, as a small state, are accustomed to being treated sometimes as if we don't exist. That's what happened when de-risking from correspondent banking became the order of the day for the last few years. As if you can cut off a region from being able to have access to trade.
This is a $500 note from Jamaica, known to Jamaicans as a nanny, named after the woman depicted here. Who is this woman, and why is her face on the country's second largest denomination in circulation? It's not known for certain, but historians believe Nanny was born in Ghana around 1686. It is there where she and her 4 brothers were captured and then taken to Jamaica as slaves. Africans enslaved by the British, including Nanny and her brothers, managed to escape and flee into the mountains, dense with jungle. They are known as maroons. The word maroon is most likely an English derivative of the Spanish word cimarron, which means wild or untamed, often referring to cattle. The maroons build up rebel villages where life carries on. Nanny becomes the leader of a settlement in the Blue Mountain region. The village is later renamed Nanny Town. Nanny Town is made up of peaceful people, farming and trading with other maroon villages. The British, relying heavily on slave labor to keep their economy alive, make attempts to recapture the maroons, but Nanny is prepared for this. She trains the people of her village to be warriors. They are skilled in guerrilla warfare. They camouflage themselves with foliage and mud. Lookouts are placed throughout the jungles surrounding Nanny Town, and if any approaching British are spotted, the lookouts alarm each other by blowing on a bang, a hollowed-out cattle horn. They defend themselves themselves from the British, and they also go out to free more slaves. They burn the plantations down after robbing them of all their goods. More than 1,000 slaves are freed thanks to Nanny and her maroon warriors. Many of the freed slaves go on to join Nanny's militia. Nannytown grows to such a strong community that the government grants 500 acres of land for them to settle on. They call this settlement New Nannytown. No one knows for sure when Nanny died or even how. Some say she died of old age and others say her death was at the hands of a British captain. Her story has been passed down largely through oral history, and along the way she has turned into a character of mythic proportions. She practiced Obeah, and so many of her followers believed she was endowed with fantastic powers. It is said that in battle she stopped bullets with her bare hands. Regardless of the validity of these claims, it is undeniable that she has left behind her an inspiring and everlasting impact on Jamaica.
Yeah man, I'm Asta Black. I'm here in Negril. Yes sir, me there. Right, yes sir. Yes. Yeah. Yeah man. The right food. Yes sir, it there. Give me a dig. My name is Ras Asta Black and I take you on a Ganja tour right here to Negril, to Westmoreland, Orange Hill, to where the real cool ganja grow. So, give me a dig. Ras Asta Black, 435-8401. Rastafari love. I'm in Jamaica, so come on down. Bless. It's a boutique resort located across the street from Iberia Star in Rosal, St. James. Check it out. It's the perfect place for your private party, your wedding reception, and they'll leave the light on for you.
The girl Tiffany. Stay tuned for the Tiffany Show coming at Bob Arts Television.